Hey guys, welcome back to our series where we take the abilities, talents, covenant abilities, resources, cooldowns, cast times, passives, buffs, and debuffs of a class and simulate them 100 million times. We will be attempting to generate the most efficient single target burst sequence we can. Aside from excluding AoE abilities, abilities that proc randomly, and utilities, the simulation has free reign. There are no weights, suggestions, or templates supplied beforehand. Ultimately, this video will be nothing more than a neat experiment. These openers may work in some scenarios, but the best way to get better at PvP is to get familiar with your class. We are very aware just how ridiculous it is to let a program tell us how to play. With the release of Shadowlands, we will now be including the Covenant class abilities when simulating. However, because many of the Covenant abilities are situational, we will also be presenting the rotation generated when excluding the ability. This is going to be a short and sweet revisit to the Subtlety Rogue. The class already cut players down quickly in our last video, and this was only made more devastating by the new damage curve criteria we set for the simulator, which was covered in our recent BM Hunter upload. In this particular simulation, which we explained more in depth in the first sub-rogue video, we are simulating a moving target. By doing this, the simulation is incentivized to CC without us explicitly telling it to. The Covenant ability options for the sub-rogue really come down to two: Sepsis and Echoing Reprimand. We obviously went with Sepsis as it is a more straightforward and powerful bleed, where Echoing Reprimand was more of a gamble. Because of this, as usual, we'll provide a rotation that does not use a Covenant ability. Like our other videos, the generated sequence was put into a cast sequence macro. This means all of our damage was coming from one keybind. Utilities like Shadow Step were being used manually when needed. Here are the talents generated. We'll be explaining why some questionable choices seem to have been made when we go over the rotation. The fourth row can be what you'd like. For the PvP talent, you'll hit quite a bit harder using Cold Blood. Here is the rotation along with the damage curve that we explained in our BM Hunter video. The sequence is quite lengthy, but this is because of the rogue's haste. We'll also be reading out the generator's log file to explain what's going on here. We want to quickly note that prior to opening, you can always use a bigger buff if your class has one, or even activate a trinket if you prefer. First, we have Cold Blood. Optional, but will cause the next Cheap Shot or Shadow Strike to hit up to 10% of the target's health. Secondly is Shadow Strike. This will trigger Cold Blood, as well as apply Slice and Dice due to the Premeditation talent. This is also activating Find Weakness for a damage buff. The strike itself will be buffed from Night Stalker as we are stealthed. Thirdly is Shadow Dance. Combines with and activates the Night Stalker talent to give nearly a 40% damage buff for the duration of Shadow Dance. Also refreshes Premeditation. Symbols of Death. Refunds the 40 energy from our first Shadow Strike and gives yet another 15% damage buff. This will also cause our next combo point generator to critically strike. Kidney Shot. Activates Prey on the Weak, which is buffing damage further. Shadow Strike. Guaranteed to critical strike from Symbols of Death. Since Slice and Dice is already active, the Premeditation talent will cause this to grant 4 combo points instead of 2. The rest of the rotation seems to be taking advantage of time left with Shadow Dance, and then leaving a target with a Sepsis and Rupture Bleed. What surprised us was the simulator's willingness to waste combo points. In hindsight, this makes sense, as the simulations moved away from Mark for Death rather quickly in favor of other talents. It would appear energy is more valuable while Shadow Dance is active. While editing this video, we overlooked the fact that Symbols of Death's guaranteed crit applies to Sepsis. When simulating again, the resulting rotation appeared better in both damage output and curve. We didn't get a chance to test it, but we thought we'd show it here. And here's a version that does not use a Covenant ability. As always, thanks for watching.